Weary from your travels, you make your way into town. What do you do?
Man, I'm down to my last couple hit points. I've not eaten in a while. I just want to put my feet up and rest at a tavern or an inn, Ted.
You cross the street to a large building with the word inn carved into a wooden sign.
Oh, great. I'm going to push my way in through the door.
A short, well dressed man stands and greets you as you enter. His green skin contrasts to the rich fabrics he wears and says, "Welcome to the Goblin."
What, Ted? Are you saying a goblin greets me?
Dave, perhaps we should discuss the D&D Tavern of the Goblin.
Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and as usual, I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Hey, you want to hear you two bards spin regular tales of D&D? Then hit that subscribe button.
But if it's the bards of Nerdarchy ye desire, then perhaps you might want to ring that notification bell.
All right, let's jump into it. Let's talk about goblins. Let's talk about taverns. Let's also talk about if you want more Nerdarchy in your life and you want it live, you can go to Nerdarchy Live. There will be a link in the description. That's our YouTube channel where we do live chats with all of our fans. We do daily live chats and bring industry guests on to talk about cool things going on in RPGs and D&D. And we also have live play games. Link in the description.
All right, so, the Goblin, totally a pun on the name Goblin, is, come about through weird and interesting ways, but you said you wanted to do a video talking about this strange inn. So what do you got here?
All right, so we were doing a live chat, and you were talking about, some Goblin or something you said, right? And they kind of had those words in it, but you were making like a Thanksgiving reference and a turkey reference, and all I heard was goblin, to be honest with you.
So I had this, I wanted to take a goblin creature, and because goblin and gobble, sound so close, I made this creature that was a goblin that had swallowed a bag of holding, and he was just sucking in all of the food and whatever else he could in kind of video game-esque, whatever was in the cone just goes into his mouth and into this magical bag of holding. But when I talked about it, you heard inn and thought tavern. That's, brought about, that's, run by goblins.
I totally want to do a goblin themed tavern now, but there's like a couple of different ways that we can do it. Like, we didn't put any like real thought into this yet. We're going to workshop it here live on this video that won't be live when you watch it. But as we do, you can weigh in and think, and kind of go with what your thoughts are. So first off is the proprietor a goblin? The owner might be a goblin that owns the tavern.
So, I mean, that's an absolute, way to go. It's totally a goblin-driven thing. You look at the goblins of Harry Potter, and they're ruthless and cunning and, very, very efficient in what they do. So you could kind of take that aspect and, but as opposed to, like, ruthless and evil, they are fully adapted to this, lifestyle of, running an inn. So they're joyful and pleasant, ready to serve and, do what is necessary to make their clients happy.
And clearly this particular goblin loves puns, right? It's either the Goblo Inn or the Goblin, however you want to do it, but there's plenty of room for wordplay and variety. I don't know. What do you think it should be? Part of me is like G-O-B, gob, and then, O by itself, and then in, all right, for the goblin, or just, Gobbo, G-O-B-O, and, G-O-B-L-O, and then in, or, there, what is the other variety, variation? There's one more, I believe.
I called it the gobble in. It could it could still roll off the tongue, but it could be the gobble in,
So there's a bunch of different ways to play with it. The owner and possibly has other goblins working for them. Possibly they don't. But that kind of brings us into like the other scenario is it's only the staff are goblins, right? Not the owner, but the staff, the people that are waiting tables, that are cooking, washing the dishes, serving people, all goblins.
So, it could very well be, there's the proprietor is, somebody who made a deal with a tribe of goblins, and now he's got all of these people as his workers. Maybe that, this dude is totally like a warlock, and, whoever he's got a pact with, goblins are their typical agents, and like he really expected like we're gonna go out and we're gonna crush things, and these goblins are gonna be your servants to slay, and he's like no, this is what I'm doing instead. So he's got this more mercantile aspect, and he's hung up all of his adventuring gear, and while he is a shrewd businessman, he's got goblins to do all of the, the cooking and the cleaning and the serving, and he's, kind of living it up.
What if the warlock himself was dark and evil, and this otherworldly being he makes the deal with gives him these goblin minions, but it turns out they're freaking worthless as warriors, fighters. They're not good at stealing. They're all jovial and happy-go-lucky. They're like the worst evil goblins ever. And he's like, oh, what am I going to do with these guys? And he opens an inn.
Wow. So, I mean, if you go in that direction, then perhaps the proprietor, tries to use, the relationship of having this inn, to some kind of nefarious plots that always seem to go awry, and he just gets the meager profits from owning the establishment. He lives a comfortable life, but it's not the life that he wanted. I think that
he's trying to evil so hard, but it just doesn't work out. Then there's the idea that we have any of these other configurations that we talked about, but the goblins are slaves. And this creates a moral dilemma for the players. How do they feel about it? Maybe the goblins aren't treated very well by the patrons or the owner. So then that can lead to a whole different kind of discussion. Do the players eventually free the goblins of their servitude? Do they get gifted the inn itself and then they take over, but as free goblins instead of slaves? So that's another way of going about it. So I have another idea.
And this is the comical version, the more
I guess you could say this is the comical version, and it is other races where they all dress up as goblins, and the patrons get goblin costumes when they come through the door. And again, like it might be funny, it might be something the players are into, or you might have a goblin in the party and it's very belittling to them. It's insulting. It's kind of racist, really. And they may not approve of it. Again, even if there's not a goblin in the party, they might still see it as being, well, this is kind of wrong. You're making fun of goblins. This is kind of racist, depending on how goblins are in your own world too, right? If goblins are really evil sons of bitches that murder and kill and pillage all the time, they may not care about the moral implications as much.
So I see this one as like the proprietor is like a retired enchanter, who has crafted, these little, minor magic items that, whether it be a headband that gives, the goblin ears, or, it's, something minor that gives these pseudo-realistic costumes. It's not going to change your height and turn you into a goblin, but it makes you look more goblin-esque than you legitimately are. Minor disguised self, if you will. I think it could be super fun and interesting. And for your, if you stay there for the night, you get this minor magic item. You pay for that with your first, night. Maybe it costs, 25 gold for that night, but you wind up with these like magical trinkets that you could take along, and you have a fake goblin costume that you could play, you could use later on in your adventures. I think that could be, an amusing thing that might lead to some more antics later on.
Yeah, it could be a trinket, and it's not even really good enough to use as a goblin disguise or part of one, because it's like so over the top or whatever. But you can incorporate it in there, or maybe this one is another version of like the proprietor or the owner is a goblin, And he's like, I got this great idea. I'll dress all my staff as goblins and everyone can be a goblin for a day. It'll be great. I'll share goblin culture with them. And any of these, you could have like goblin cuisines on the menu. You could have goblin drinks on the menu. Maybe goblins in your world are phenomenal brewers. They make the best beer. So it's like a natural fit if you wanted to do goblins a little bit different. So finally, another idea we kind of floated is goblins are often used as entertainment. Like maybe you have goblin jugglers.
Would that be like a goblin that comes out and juggles, or somebody who juggles with goblins?
Yeah, that both could work, I guess.
One of them. I just see this half ogre who comes out, and these three goblins, like, they roll up into balls, and he just sits there and, juggles with the actual goblins.
You could totally do that. Again, is this going to create moral dilemmas? Are these goblins willing, or do they agree with it? Yeah, maybe the players find it kind of degrading or belittling to, for the goblins to be treated this way. Or you could go even darker route. What if it's a goblin fight club, right? It's like adventurers go out, they capture goblins, bring them back alive. The center of this tavern is a pit. They throw two goblins in there wearing spiked gauntlets and spiky armor, and they just battle it out until one of them loses the fight. Man. Maybe it's to the death, maybe it's not. Maybe they're willing, maybe they're not. So like it could definitely be a whole thing where, again, anytime you can introduce these moral dilemmas into your game and the players have to decide, is this right or wrong, and what side do they want to come down on it, I think makes for more interesting stories.
Yeah, that's that last one is brutal, but as Dave says, these moral dilemmas, it gives characters, the players the chance to really decide, where are they going to stand on these kind of issues. They might not care, and it might just be treated as this is another social encounter, and they interact with the environment and then move on. Other times, man, they might be like, whoa, we got to do something about this. And that lets you know who those characters are. And, you then can plan adventures, kind of accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, you might do, and you can do it in layers, right? Goblin Fight Club, and people are like, yeah, these goblins love to fight, they get paid, blah, blah, blah. It's awesome, they're famous. But then, like, the players dig a little deeper and they find out, oh, they actually aren't here of their own volition. They're being forced to fight. Oh, wait a minute, they don't get paid at all. Oh, many goblins get murdered and die in this fight club with no benefit to them. It's just, all the benefit is to the people gambling and being entertained. And, it's just this brutal blood sport that the players might be like, you know what, this needs to end. You could do something where one of the players uncovers this and they get thrown in the pit and they've got to fight the goblins, or, but maybe they don't really want to fight the goblins, but the goblins don't know any better because, this is kind of a lot they've been dealt, and they don't want to die. So they're like, we're going to fight. I don't know. There's just different ways you can introduce these concepts, anywhere from the lighthearted joking stuff to the more serious moral dilemmas that can come up in your campaign. It really just depends on what kind of game you're running and how you want to see goblins treated in said game.
Indeed. So you want another discussion about D&D taverns? Then check out this video where we talk 10 ways to not start in a tavern.
Want to help us create more D&D videos? Then consider supporting us over on Patreon.
As a Patreon supporter, you not only help us keep doing what we're doing, but you'll receive awesome rewards as well.
Like 5e content for players and DMs alike, being automatically entered in our monthly giveaways, and more.
So until next time, stay nerdy.